Dark shadows. um, the shadows speak, and the silence in between the facts are chilling. Let's dive into this rabbit hole of a boy whose life and circumstances and the people involved in his life made him, I'm going to say, forced him to go down this path of reinventing himself and literally trying to become a demon. Pazuzu Algarad, okay? A young boy who was born into an ordinary family, and life just took him on a path while he was screaming for help. Nobody was there. Let's get into that. It's sad and it's deep and it's dark. Trigger warning, trigger warning. I'm trying to tone it down a lot, but it's difficult to tone it down because there's just so much. So there will be many violent and gruesome details. Okay, you can only tone it down so much, but even if you tone it down 80%, it's still almost uncomprehendable. Right, so little John Alexander Lawson was born on the 2nd of August 1978 to his mother Cynthia and his father Timothy Lawson. They were living in San Francisco at the time. They lived together as a happy family. Everything was normal. He was happy, she was happy, and John was a normal child, an average child. Grew up, had fun, loved his mom and dad, went to school, had friends, average child, nothing wrong. Then, when he was about 11, they got divorced. Very suddenly, they got divorced. Now, the reasons for the divorce is not stated. You can't find much on the mom and dad. But she upped and left with her son, who's 11 years old, and moved to Clements in North Carolina. And almost immediately married Johnny James. So he's 11 years old. His dad cuts all contact with him and his mother, so he never sees his dad again. This has to impact a child. Okay, this has to. There's no way it doesn't. Because she almost immediately gets married and she moves him miles away. So yes, little Johnny had a lot of resentment towards John, Big John, the new stepdad. I mean, think about it. This is a child in a normal household, just living his life, being a child. And he's just ripped out of that. You don't have a dad anymore. You'll never see him again, but you have a stepdad now. Immediately. No. There's going to be consequences to that. So Clements was a small little town with a population of about 20,000. That's kind of small. Okay, that's very small, actually. Not like where everybody knows everybody, but everybody knows about everybody. I mean, there's only so many churches, so many supermarkets, you know what I mean. So they moved there to a normal little house, and obviously there was a lot of friction between little Johnny and Big John. Okay, so Big John did not have much love for this child either. I mean, he wasn't in it to be a stepdad. He was in it for the mom, okay? So, because obviously they had a thing before the time. So, Johnny literally withdrew within himself, spent most of his time in his bedroom. In his bedroom, he just comes out for dinner and things, which turns into arguments because there's friction, and then goes to school, comes back, same thing. So he's becoming very withdrawn. But the mom does nothing, okay? The mom's answer to this, her solution was literally to not deny him anything, okay? By not denying your child anything, you are teaching him to have very strong intimidation skills, okay? This is not right. This is not his fault, okay? You're teaching him that. Anyway, so by the time he's 13, she finally decides to take him to a psychologist. So he goes to a psychologist and he speaks to the psychologist. And after the visit, the mother calls, the psychologist calls the mom in and speaks to her. And she says to her, okay, you know what? The problem is not with the child. The problem is with the stepdad. Okay. Now this is in different places. People see this differently. Some people say it's because he could manipulate the psychologist. I don't know about that. He's a child. He's 13, and others say I tend to believe that was the problem. The mother and the stepdad was the problem. Okay. So anyway, then the mother speaks to the stepdad about it. He loses his shit and leaves. Okay. So now it's just her and Johnny, and you think, great. Now we're going to get somewhere. Now she's going to focus on her child, get a job, and raise her son. No. You see, this Cynthia mother is so twisted in her own mind. Okay, so self-absorbed. Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot stand this woman and I cannot hide her. Instead of taking this as a sign that I need to raise my child, and maybe when he's grown, then I get it that you kind of spiral out of control when you get divorced. It's not easy to get divorced. It's going to be very lonely and all that, although the reason she got divorced, it doesn't count for her. But anyway, so what happens? What does Cynthia do? Mommy dearest decides to go on a partying spree. So she disappears for days on end. She starts drinking heavily. Okay, so for a couple of months, she's just never home. Okay, he's raising himself. She just disappears for like a week at a time. Okay. Then eventually something obviously happened out there and she couldn't, these guys didn't want to stay over as their place, so they sent her home. So then she never went out anymore. She stayed at home, drank all day, and had numerous men come in and out the house. And she would literally have sexual escapades with them in her room, right next door to John. Now, when he can hear what's going on next door, he's not stupid because now he's like 13. Okay, he knows what's going on. Every day there's a different guy coming in, and mom's always drunk and having sex with guys in her room. So this is trauma for a child. This is such a bad example. So with the increase of trauma, this child was so affected. Okay, he stopped showering completely, stopped brushing his teeth, stopped using deodorant, wore dirty clothes. Okay, I'm going to say this a lot of time. There is a mother in the house. This child does not bath, doesn't use deodorant, doesn't shower, doesn't brush his teeth, goes to school with dirty clothes. Okay, there is a mother in the house. So because of this, because of him going to school all dirty, the lack of hygiene obviously brought a whole lot of bullying, because the kids at school they didn't want to sit next to him. He smelled bad. Okay, he smelled bad. He was dirty. His clothes were dirty. So there was a lot of ridicule and bullying from his fellow students. But there was also the teachers. The teachers would make remarks about it. Now, side note here, if you're a teacher, okay, I don't know why you became a teacher. Maybe it was the easiest thing to study, or I don't know, or maybe your parents forced you. But not just as a teacher, as an adult, but specifically as a teacher. If you see a child who's clean every day, comes to school, you can see he's got a little bit of problems at home, but suddenly one day he stops showering, stops using deodorant, comes to school, doesn't speak to anybody, the bullying gets back. You don't make remarks, okay? You sit down with him and you find out what's wrong. You go to his house and ask his mother, what's going down here? You phone CPS. There was not a single CPS. Let me just mention this. There was not a single CPS case at this house, okay? That's worrying. What's wrong with you people? So, yes, he was a total outcast. This child was a total outcast at the age of 13. It's terrible. So at age 13, things got so bad for this child. He was like 13, 14, that he stopped going to school. He just stopped going to school. And his mother didn't do anything about this. He just stayed in his room all day. He was a total outcast. I just want you to understand the loneliness and he's a child. What is going through his mind? He's breaking. He's literally falling to pieces bit by bit. And his mother and society is doing nothing. But yeah, he stops going to school. Okay, he starts suffering from very severe anxiety because he's got no sport, okay, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. He wants to fit in somewhere and he's not fitting in somewhere, and he's trying to make people see something is wrong, help me, but nobody's helping, okay. So finally his mother takes him to a psychiatrist, okay, and the psychiatrist diagnosed him with psychotic disorder, schizophrenia, and early signs of agoraphobia. Agoraphobia, where you don't want to go outside. They strongly demand, the psychiatrist strongly recommends treatment for this. But the mom, he's 13, the mom says she can't afford it. But the mom drinks all day, okay. So what does she do? She sends him back to school. He goes back to school, okay, but now her solution to this, she can't afford the treatment. She gets him on drugs, like illegal substances, and she buys him, he's 13. She, the mom, Cynthia, buys him 12 beers every day. Hello? I kid you not. This, I will knock a bitch light out. Oh. Anyway, let me not even go there. She buys him 12 beers a day so that he can just chill, child, just chill, drink a beer, have a beer. You know, he's 13, okay. So then he became, because this made things even worse at school. Let me tell you that, because I was going to school drunk, but still nobody's doing anything. This child goes to school drunk, and the teachers are just, oh, bad child. The kids are mocking him, teasing him. So what does he do? He gets obsessed with black magic. He's tried all avenues. He gets obsessed with black magic, horror movies, Halloween. Not Halloween, not the fun kind. Cosplaying Halloween every day of the year. He would dress up like Freddy Krueger the whole year and scare neighbors, okay? Werewolves, vampires, supernatural powers. He took such a... Okay, we all, when Twilight and that came out, we all went through the vampire stage, okay? But you know, this is reality, this is fiction. His lines were blurred at this point, okay? He wanted to be a vampire. He wanted to be a werewolf. He wanted supernatural powers. He wanted something, okay? This is opening so many doors. It's so scary. Once again, there is a mother in this house, okay? So yeah, so he started telling the kids at school. Now he's dressing like a monster at school. He smells bad. He still doesn't shower. He's dirty. He tells them that he's a werewolf and a vampire, and he's got supernatural powers. He can move objects. He can manipulate the weather. He can curse people who he doesn't like. He's telling them all this, okay? Nobody's doing anything, okay? He actually starts researching spells and things, how to put spells on people, how to exert influence on people, mind control, these things. Because now, at this point, Charles Manson is his biggest hero, because this guy was an outcast and he did this. If I can do that, if I can do this, I can just think in his mind, he's thinking, if I can do this, I can make people like me. Okay, I can fit in. So in this religious neighborhood, I mean, this made things worse for him. Kids knew he's not a vampire or a werewolf, you know, they knew this. But in this religious neighborhood, there's this child who's dressed as a monster, obsessed with black magic, and at this point, 13, he was killing animals, and he was drinking their blood, okay. And the neighborhood knew this, and nobody did anything. So what happens? At age 14, he drops out of school completely. And there is a mother in this house, and she does nothing. She does absolutely nothing. She brings her men home, and she drinks her alcohol, and she buys him his beer and his drugs. This is her solution. What? I'm shocked when I look at this. I know when I'm speaking about Pazuzu, he's the bad guy. Okay, he turned into the most horrible person in the world. But I can't help but look at how he got there. how he got there. And this is where I'm trying to get at. How did he get there? How did he get there? You know, I get it, some people are born different. He wasn't. He was normal. She made him so. Okay. But let's carry on. So yes, age 14, he dropped out of school completely. All he did was drugs, alcohol, and research, mind control, black magic, and do rituals all day for 4 years. Didn't leave the house for 4 years. The only person he ever spoke to, which was very rarely because mommy was busy with her own things there, okay, was his mom. So at age 18, he needed more drugs. He needed more drugs, he needed more alcohol, he needed more stuff. So he started getting disability benefits, okay? This was still not enough. Because now remember, this child's been addicted to substances and alcohol since age 13, okay? 12 beers a day and a joint doesn't do it for you anymore. So he needed more. So this forced him to go outside. Now he had to leave the house. And he's got agoraphobia and he doesn't like people and people don't like him. So he starts leaving the house to go sell drugs, okay? Because this is how he's going to make money. This child doesn't have an education. What else is he going to do? So he's selling drugs. Once again, there is a mother in the house, okay? So what does he realize when he's out there selling drugs? His customers are outcasts, just like him. They confuse rejects of society. And this for the first time in his life, he's got a bit of confidence and he felt significant and relevant, okay? Now, never forget, feeling relevant is one of the most important. Feeling loved is good, but feeling relevant. If you don't feel relevant where you are, it's the most horrible thing. I've been in a place where I don't feel relevant and I have to leave because if I'm not relevant, I have to go somewhere where I am relevant. You need to be relevant. Everybody needs to be relevant. Relevant is a very broad word, but you have to be relevant, okay? So this is when he decides to do a total rebrand. He's now going to reinvent himself because he's now found people who are like him, who respect him. Well, this is not really respect, okay? Because this guy thinks that his brain is like this. Nobody likes me and nobody respects me. I will get people to spend time with me with fear. If they won't respect me, I'll get them to fear me. Okay, this is what he does. Fear. And I know a lot of employers who are like that. Their employees don't respect them, so they instill fear. This is the thing people do. The scary guy is always the one, he doesn't get respect. That's why he instills fear. It's sad, but it's true. So with this total rebrand and reinvention of himself, Johnny Lawson legally goes and changes his name from John Lawson to Pazuzu Algarat, legally. He actually now, Pazuzu is a demon in Assyrian and Babylonian mythology. Okay, it's a demon. It's a demon. It was incidentally also the demon in one of the Exorcist movies. So he wanted to become chaos, this guy. And Algarad is an Arabic word that means Lord of Locusts. So he literally became Demon Lord of Locusts. Okay, he legally changed his name. When he changed his name, his reason was actually that he is Muslim. Okay, and the reason he did that, this was the same time as the 2011 incident, so Muslims were very frowned upon, and this would create more fear in this Christian community. So this played a role as well. At that same time, he started putting lots of tattoos on. He tattooed his whole face, he was at that point bathing once a year, saying it's part of his religion, because he made up his own religion. So he bathed once a year. He put many tattoos on. He tattooed Satan and bad things on him, okay? He wanted shock value, okay? He wanted to shock people. He wanted people to be scared of him, and by being scared of him, they'll spend time with him just because they're scared of him. This is frightening. He filed his teeth into fangs to represent a vampire, but also to to bite into animals easier, okay, to drink their blood. So he split his tongue to, I've always hated that. I see people do that, and I don't know why you do that. That is evil, okay? Your tongue was made like that for a reason. Thank God my kids never did this. So yeah, he filed his teeth down, he split his tongue, he told stories to all these people that he was selling drugs to, that his mom, he invented a backstory for himself. His mom worshipped Satan and his dad was a high priest in Iraq. This was not true. He needed a better story, because his story was so sad and so bad that his story wasn't going to get people to like him, so he needed to make a new story. Okay, so that's terrible. So at this time, he, because he now had quite a following of friends now, so he turned this house in Knollwood House, into a party den. Okay. There is a mother in the house. Okay. Never forget that. I'll be saying it a lot. There was never less than 20 people in the house. There were always 20 to 30 people in the house partying. And in this house, he made his own religion, sort of a mixture between Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, all of this. He made his own religion. Okay. But he had no religion. He just made this up. He would tell fake stories to these people about how he's killed homeless people and prostitutes and buried them in the backyard, in the basement. And he would make up stories to make people fear him, so that they would hang out with him. Okay, his whole thing was freedom. Okay, this is not what every cult does. Freedom. So his whole thing was freedom. In this house, you could do and say anything you did. So the people literally came there with their deepest, darkest fetishes and fantasies, and they could live them out, and everything was okay. Nothing was taboo. So, and let me tell you, some people have very dark fantasies. I think we know this. If you watch true crime, you know this. Okay. So look at the pictures of the house. Now, this is how it was. If you want to take a dump in the corner, in the lounge, do it. If you want to pee on the couch, go ahead. You want to punch someone in the face, all good. You want to have sex right, go for it. You don't want to wear clothes, it's fine, you can walk around naked. There is a mother in the house. So, yeah, he would, in front of, while he had these parties, he would use his fangs, and he had 5 dogs living in the house, by the way. He would bite into the dogs and drink their blood. He would also bite into himself and let other people taste him. And then he would invite people that he bites them, and everybody drinks from them. And people would voluntarily participate in this. Okay. This is spiraling out of control, eh? So the house, in the meantime, there was no cleaning happening. There was no repairs, no maintenance, and this house was falling apart inside. Okay, there was a dead cat hanging from a tree, because remember, he did rituals with these, and there were houses. When you look at I actually went on Google Street Map, and where the house was, there are neighbors right next door. Okay, this is a suburban area. Okay, and the stench must have been insane, because people were literally not using the bathroom; they were using the floor, and the dogs, 5 dogs were living in the house, just peeing and shitting all over everything. There were dead animal carcasses in the house, in the lounge, in the bedrooms. There was graffiti all over the walls, blood smeared all over the walls, shit smeared all over the walls. The neighbors, actually, I can't believe this. The neighbors could smell this house, because this stench traveled, okay? So they could smell this, but they did nothing. They said nothing. Some of them said they were scared that he had powers. They believed he had powers. We'll talk about that later. And others just didn't want to deal with this unhinged neighbor. I'm sorry, but if my next door neighbor hangs a dead cat from his tree, we're going to have words. We're going to talk. We're going to talk. There's going to be trouble in paradise because no. So no sane person can live like that. Okay, this is what I'm saying. He's not sane at this point anymore. But yeah, the neighbors were afraid. They did nothing because I'm sure you can report this somewhere. Okay, but at this point, people were flocking to his house. Okay, he went from outcast to hero in a year. Okay, so and this carried on for years, for like 10 years. Okay, him and his mother literally switched roles at this point, where he used to lock himself in his room so that he didn't have to hear or see what his mother did when she had all these men over. She was now locking herself in her room so that she didn't have to see what was going on in the whole house. So they reverse roles. He literally, and she can't see this. What you did to him, he is now doing to you. So now we're skipping ahead a few years. He's 30 now, okay, and people are flocking to the house. Some are living there, some just come to party for crash for a few days and do all these strange things and then head out again. And most of the people who came to his house were between 18 and 20. Okay, why? And this is going to be very significant because they're easier to manipulate. Okay, they're easier to manipulate because I think by the time you get to 30, you're not going to get manipulated so easy, you know. So yes, very young. He also Cult 101. He had spiritual wives. Okay, these are young girls. Don't forget, he's 30, and his first spiritual wife and his main wife was Amber Birch. Okay, this is shocking. She graduated, she was going to go to college, good family, good house, and somehow she ran across him. I don't know how she met him, where she met him, but she moved in. She fell in love with him, she worshipped him. She even filed her teeth into fangs as well and partook in these rituals with him, believing she's a vampire. The second one was his second main wife was Crystal Matlock. Very normal. She was very fond of horses. She graduated. She was 20 and also met him randomly and moved in. And he had her so brainwashed because remember, all his life has been studying how to manipulate people because it's the only way he gets people to like him. Okay, so she believed, she told everybody he was her hero and her savior. Savior from what? You're in hell. You know. Now at this point, Pazuzu was getting unhinged. Okay, he was unhinged already, but he had many spiritual wives, like I said, and he also started bragging about his weapons because obviously the dishwasher did not get used for dishes because there you just eat off the, around the shit on the floor, literal shit. But he had firearms and knives and things that he kept in the dishwasher. Okay. He would also brag to everybody who came into his house how he killed people and buried them in the backyard. And when somebody would disagree with him, he would say, you know what, somebody disagreed with me and I deleted them and cut them up in the basement and you'll end up in the basement. Okay, so yes, this is terrible. Now this house smells like decomposition and shit and pee already, so people can't tell. Lots of people thought he was just telling stories, but deep down they knew something wasn't right. I don't believe any other way. Now let's start with the downfall of Pazuzu. Enters Joshua Wexler. Joshua Wexler and Tommy Welch. This is in 2009. Okay. Joshua was a guy in his 30s. He had a wife and he had a little boy, and they had a plot of land that they used for a horse rehabilitation center for horses. But this guy made one mistake. My God. He ordered mushrooms, not the regular kind, the magic ones, for mail delivery. And he got caught and he got convicted and he went to jail. And while he was in jail, the whole sanctuary fell apart and his wife divorced him and she took the child and she left. Okay, so his life fell apart. But when he came out though, he actually saw his wife and his child, but he had no job, nobody would employ him anymore. So he saw his wife and his little boy, and they had pizza and all this, and they planned to meet the next week again. The next week he didn't come, and the wife thought, oh, well, he probably just violated his parole, so he's probably just back in prison. He'll contact me when he's back. So she didn't realize that he was missing, okay? But he was missing because he bumped into Pazuzu, and that had devastating consequences. The second guy is Tommy Welch. Tommy Welch was a very skilled mechanic, also in his 30s, devoted to his family, had never used drugs in his life, and rarely drank alcohol, okay? How he met, nobody knows to this day how he met Pazuzu, because they did not run in the same circles. They were not the same people. But he met Pazuzu and he disappeared, okay? So this is where the trouble starts for Pazuzu. Tommy Welch was a skilled mechanic and a family man. He was devoted to his family, never took drugs, rarely had any alcohol. And he actually saw his brothers. He had brothers and parents, and he saw them in the morning, and they had planned to meet for dinner that night. And he never came for dinner. And they thought, this is very unusual. They tried to phone him, he didn't answer. They went to his house, he wasn't there. And they actually filed a missing persons report because he was missing, but he was never found. Okay, so, yeah. Now this is the time where I'm getting sick, so I'm coughing. This is the time where Pazuzu starts encountering the law a few times. I'm very disappointed with the law though. My voice is going, let's hope I finish this video because I'm getting sick. Now there were rumors of killings happening there and dismemberments and all these things. There were rumors like this. But at some point, Pazuzu attacks his mother, okay? Violently attacks her, almost kills her, tries to strangle her. And she calls the police. Police come out and they arrest him, and what does she do? She drops the charges. So he gets probation. Then Amber, his wife, attacks the mother, also gets arrested. She doesn't press charges. So Amber goes. Somebody else, another woman, lays charges against Pazuzu for assault because he assaulted her somewhere. And what happens? Probation. This guy just gets off with everything. There's no consequences. There's literally no consequences for this guy. It's insane. This is why I'm thinking at this point, he has help from some dark force, because how do you just walk away like that? You know, how do you? So anyway, 6 months after Joshua disappeared, Stacy, his ex-wife, got a call from a friend who said, you know what, there's rumors going around that Joshua is dead and buried in Pazuzu's backyard. Now, she didn't know who Pazuzu was, but she knew this friend wouldn't lie to her. So she goes to the police, okay, in 2010. She goes to the police and she tells them, you know what, my ex, the father of my little boy, I got a message that he is dead and buried in this guy's backyard. Okay. So the cops, yeah, we've heard those rumors. Okay. Yeah. But apparently they can't do anything just on rumors. Okay. So they get a search warrant to go to the house, because now they have someone who has now filed charges. Okay. Now if you're going to go to someone's house to look for buried people in the backyard, the least you're going to take is a shovel, okay? You're going to take a shovel, because They go. Now these people are walking through this house. You see what the house looks like. These cops go through, they go to the backyard, they got a search warrant, they've got dogs, okay, and they're walking through the backyard. You're not, unless you have x-ray eyes, you're not going to see anything by walking there. They forgot to bring equipment. They didn't bring equipment, not even a shovel, okay. The dogs, they say to her afterwards that the dogs, there was too much of a bad smell there. The dogs couldn't determine one spot where there's a body, okay, so in conclusion, no bodies, sorry. Really? And you want to tell me he doesn't have help from some dog force? He does. So, in June 2010, Joseph Chandler, a young man also, somehow him and Pazuzu and Rizzy, another guy, Nicholas Rizzy, they found themselves on this riverbank near Pazuzu's house together at the same time. Now this was a place where Pazuzu regularly went to go do rituals, okay, because we all know there's water involved. Whenever there's a ritual, there's water involved. So, and something happened. He obviously disagreed with Pazuzu, and while Pazuzu was going to his car to get a firearm, Rizzy pulled one out and popped him in the head. Okay, so the police found this body, this Joseph Chandler's body at the riverbank, and it led them to Pazuzu. Now Pazuzu had in the meantime taken Rizzy, was staying with Pazuzu. He was protecting him because he's the big guy. So anyway, then it led them there. So they were both charged with murder, arrested, all that. But now Rizzy pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter. He said it was an accident. Okay, he didn't mean to shoot him in the head. So he got, get this, this guy shoots someone in the head at close range. And he says, no, I didn't mean it. And the cops believe him. And he gets 13 months. 1 year. 1 year. Pazuzu was obviously charged for aiding and abetting, and we all know what he got. Probation. He always gets probation. He doesn't get charged for anything. Now, people still wonder, and I also wonder about this. Did Rizzy actually do this, or was he manipulated into saying he did? Because we know that Pazuzu can manipulate people to do his crimes, like manslaughter. Okay, so get this. With the trial, his mother, Joseph Chandler's mother, was not allowed in court. This tells me that there probably wasn't even a court case. It was a case of the judge just saying, okay, cool, 1 year, 13 months, we call it quits. How is the victim's mother not allowed in court during the trial? This makes no sense. This is another thing that makes me wonder, who is the puppet master in this, Right now, we're in 2011 now, and let's not forget, there is a mother in this house. So in 2011, Mommy Dearest decides, okay, now, maybe this has gone too far. From age 11 until now, maybe I need to do something. So she goes to the police. She goes to the police and she tells the police, this blows my mind, okay? This absolutely mind fucks me. She goes to the police. She tells the police, I saw my son delete someone, dismember them and bury them in the backyard with his wife, one of his wives. Okay. So the police ask her very politely, said, can you give us permission to search your backyard? No. She says no. I can't believe she said no. What I can believe even less is what the cops did. They didn't go get, they've got this woman. Now they've had someone saying that their ex-husband is buried in that backyard. They've heard rumors about this. This is a common story around Clemens. And They don't get a search warrant or anything. They just say, oh, well, whatever. Whatever. We can't go. What? What? But yes, that's how it went down. There was no investigation, no search warrant, nothing. She went back to the house and things carried on as per normal. Okay. But now, when Pazuzu just started out with this party den, okay, he had a friend, Matt Flowers, okay. And Matt Flowers came to this party den, used drugs, drank alcohol, did all these things, and somewhere in the back of his head he just said, I don't want to be in this situation, okay. I'm not going down this hole with Pazuzu, okay. And he left, and he joined the military, and he served in Iraq for years, okay. In 2014, he returned home after serving in the army. So, this veteran heard these rumors, and he said, no, I've been there, I know. A big respect to this guy, okay, because he was not going to let this go. He went to the police, he said, you got to go check this out. The police were like, no, we've been there, it's nothing. No, I'm telling you, there's stuff there, you got to go. I know this guy, I've been in that house, I know what he's capable of, you have to go. So finally, the cops go with equipment, a couple of shovels and bulldozers, to look in the garden, to look under the ground. And lo and behold, 5 years later, they dig up the bodies. Both bodies, okay. So Pazuzu, Amber, and Crystal, his two main wives, they get arrested, okay. So what happened was, so they're all in jail, they all get charged with murder, they're in jail, and Josh ended up this, this is the thing, remember most of Pazuzu's in his 30s now, most of his followers are between 18 and 20 because he can manipulate them. This is what I said earlier. Older people can't get manipulated so easy. So Joshua disagreed with him. He didn't like it. He shot him 7 times in the head and torso, okay? And Tommy also disagreed. I don't know how Tommy ended up there, but he also disagreed with something, and Amber didn't like it, so she shot him in the back of the head. Both of them were taken to the basement, dismembered, and then buried in the garden, okay? So these were not lies that he was telling, this was real. Pazuzu and Amber were charged with voluntary manslaughter, and Crystal, because she didn't actually physically do anything, delete someone, she was charged with aiding and abetting. Now get this, there was no way Pazuzu was going to be held accountable for anything, okay? Because he knew parole was not an option now, okay? So this is a bit much now. While he's sitting awaiting trial, they found him in his cell and he had a deep laceration on his arm and he had bled out, okay? They don't know. Some sources say the wardens, the guards actually helped him do this, okay, because they were tired of this. And others say that he actually bit himself with the fangs and bled out. But point is, he never faced consequences for anything, okay? Amber got a minimum of 30 years, okay? And Crystal got 3 years. So that was the end of that saga. But let me say it again, there was a mother in the house. All these years, there was a mother in the house. Cynthia did an interview afterwards, okay? Do you know what she said? This bitch said, Johnny was no angel, but he wasn't bad either. Woman, we know he wasn't bad. He was a child. You made him like this. You did this to him. You are responsible for every single thing he did, okay? You formed his personality. You shaped his personality. You enabled him to do this. I don't know. Obviously, there's no law for that, but I think she should take some accountability for this. She made him what he is. I mean, this child, traumas and things like this. Because sometimes children are just born with dark things, but other times, like Pazuzu, well, I'm going to call him Johnny, because he was Johnny, okay? And I know I shouldn't stand up for him or think of good in him, but I can't help but think what this child's mind, remember, your brain is not even fully developed until you're 25. You need help, you need guidance, you need role models, okay? Every mother makes mistakes, every person makes mistakes, every parent makes mistakes, but to this extent. He was louder than what he screamed for help. He couldn't. He screamed so loud and nobody. Society, the house was demolished. It was found unfit for her habitation, obviously, because nobody could live there, so it was demolished, okay? But now society, the neighbors, remember this is a suburban area full of Christians. Why did you not do anything? Why did you not do anything? I am a Christian. Okay, I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus, heaven, hell, all the good stuff. Okay, I am not. If I could not. If you believe in Jesus and you walk away from someone that you think is evil, demon possessed, dude, that's exactly who you're supposed to go help. That's exactly. Do you think for a minute that young boy wanted to be possessed by whatever possessed him? He didn't. He wanted to be loved. He wanted his mother to love him. He wanted society to accept him. You're to blame for this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Society, the police, and mostly his mother is to blame for it. Then there's his father. I can't find him anywhere, okay? But the father, yeah, the mother obviously cheated, left you, went with her boyfriend. But you just cut contact with your son altogether. Altogether, you cut contact with your son. Why? You're responsible for this as well, okay? I don't know what the backstory was there, why he did this. If you're angry with the wife, she fucked around. He didn't. Okay? So, yes, it sounds really twisted when I'm standing up for this very sick person, but I can't help looking at what he was and the potential he had and what his circumstances and experiences turned him into, okay? Yeah, I know many people will judge me for this, but that's the truth. That is the truth. He had no alternatives, okay? He had no alternative. The good wasn't helping him. The bad did. That sounds terrible, but let me say that again and let this sink in. He was in need of help, desperate help, and the good ignored him. The bad helped him. Okay? Let that sink in. Don't walk away from people like that. If you're a good person, help them. You cannot walk away from them. No. Anyway, that's it. There will be more of these.